Hey, Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Super excited that football's back in town. Was able to just relax for the weekend and watch my boys get pimp slapped by your boys. Uh, so it was good, but yeah, disappointing first week, but excited that it's back in motion, back in moves. I get to sit down and watch. So
Yeah,
got
why don't you tell the people who your team is, dog?
I'm a Steelers fan, baby. Go black and gold. I bleed black and gold, baby. But hey, you know what I did do? I submitted my 2 week application to Danny for Sundays off. I said I'm not doing anything on Sundays.
Nice. Good
Memes.
job. Good job. Love it.
How was your weekend, man?
It was good. It was real good. I think I just worked on Saturday and then had a nice day with the family Sunday. So really relaxing and getting back at it was crazy when we had when we were recording this, I had to ask him like, what day is it? Is it Monday? It's just it feels like sometimes like when you're working for yourself, it just feels like you just lose track of time and days, man. It's crazy.
I just know when I gotta go to sleep and when I gotta be up, but I live off my calendar. So even if
Yeah.
it's Saturday, if I'm working, I'm working.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
That's it.
But
That's it.
yeah, it was a good weekend for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, sweet. Well, I will dive into what I've got for us. So S&P 500, as usual, tracking my indexes, the main three that I track, down last week about 0.5%, but up still year to date about 17%. The Dow Jones down about 0.5% as well last week, but up still 4.61%. And then the Russell 2000 down about 3.19%. So saw a real big decline, but still up about 5.96 year to date. Again, I've been saying it for a while now, and I'm going to continue to say it. I think, volatility in the market is expected and going to come. We going into an election year, coming into the end of Q4 or end of Q3, beginning of Q4, like we're going to see some movement. We always do. And it's usually in a negative, the end of the year kind of fluctuates negatively.
Yeah.
Again, going into the election year, we always see a downward move. So just keep investing, keep your strategies high, and keep facilitating the things that you are planning on doing. And then also, I wanted to share it's Life Insurance Awareness Month, the month of September. So if you don't have life insurance, you you definitely need to explore and have these conversations, right? I like to take today as a perfect example, a prime example, right? And I'm really sorry, and never forget 9/11, but 22 years ago, these men and women that were participating in the first responders type jobs that were responding to this accident happening, they did not anticipate waking up and having to deal with the destruction that they had to deal with and just the pure chaos, and a lot of them lost their lives, and that was an average day in their average job that they weren't anticipating. And so there's a statistic out there that 85% of Americans say most people need life insurance coverage, yet only 62% actually have it. And so it's very important that you explore it and that you have it. And yes, it doesn't really do much to you specifically, right? Like you're basically buying it as a plan for your family after you're dead, because like it doesn't matter for you anymore. And there are strategies in which you can utilize, blah blah blah. But I'm not going to get hung up. The whole purpose and process is to really help out your heirs. So whether you have a family, whether you not have a family, if you're planning on having a family or you do, consulting a professional and getting the right amount of insurance that's specific for your needs is ultra important. I'm going to keep hitting on that for the rest of the month because I do think it's super important. So if you have questions, I'm an open book. I'd be more than happy to answer them, explore some options with you, but definitely, need to have that set in place. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Drew, you and I had this conversation. I got set up on it really because even as young as I am, right? Some people watching may be like, well, I'm young. I don't have a family. It doesn't really matter that I get into life insurance. But I would argue the other way and say, why not have it, right? Why not bless your family if you can, if you die unexpectedly, right? Like even I had a good friend die the end of last year from a motorcycle crash, super young, healthy dude, 22 years old. And, it's just like you said, no one would have expected it. It just happened. And so that's how death typically happens. No one's expecting it typically. And so, yeah, just even if you're young, talk with Drew, get it set up because you could tremendously bless family or friends if you have that set up. And as hard as that situation will be for them, at least financially, they won't have to grieve, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the thing is too, one last thing to hit on that point, because you're exactly right, is it's not an if, it's a when, right? There's only two guarantees in life: taxes and death and taxes. And making sure that you are taking care of the people who are left behind, they're not stuck with your debts, because you don't know when it's going to happen. You just know that it will. And the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to get and the more it's going to cost you. So you might as well take advantage of it now, the younger you are, because every single day you're getting closer and closer to death. So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome.
Awesome. Love it.
On a more positive note, what do you have to share? What are your updates?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be hitting this week on the Vail market.
Ooh,
Drew,
nice.
you and I just got done talking about Micah Mountain and that dope high school out there.
So
So
beautiful.
figured we'd hit on Vail. So average sales price for August 2023 was $397,608. That's up about 1,700 bucks from July. So they've seen an increase in pricing there. When we look at the closed sales, we're down from August of 2023. So we're at 731 compared to July, which was 753. I'd like to point out, and I'm just going to go back over the 10 years. As far as Vail's concerned, it's at one of the lower points, kind of on average over the past 10 years for closed sales. So I think we're going to kind of come and see kind of just back to normalization for the Vail market and really the surrounding markets. I mean, we're seeing, at least I'm seeing this in all of the suburbs of Tucson. 2020, 2021, and 2022, beginning of 2022, were all kind of skewed numbers. So when I'm talking with sellers and buyers, they're basing a lot of their understanding on 2021 and 2020. And something I have to constantly reiterate to these people is that those 2 years of real estate were completely influencing, just like influx incredibly. So you really have to look at the back 10 years to see, okay, what was really the average over the past 10 years? And then how are we positioned now? So just kind of keep that in mind. As far as days on market in Vail, we saw an increase of 1 day. So the average days on market is 28 days, a little under a month in Vail. Again, when I look at the past 10 years, the average is probably closer to 40 to 45 days. Between 40 and 60 days has kind of been the average. So we're still well below the average, when it comes, but we are climbing is what it seems. And then month supply, we're at 2.8. So we've stayed consistent at 2.8 over the last 2 months. Again, that's just telling us the velocity of the market, how quickly homes are selling compared to how many homes are on the market. So it would take 2.8 months for all of the current inventory in Vail to sell out if nothing came on the market tomorrow. That tells me that it's still a strong seller's market. Even though we've seen that increase in days on market, again, when you look at the 10-year average, we're still well below, and the sales price is slowly increasing month over month. So what I want to hit on today, my call to action, as we head into quarter 4, what is September's the last month of quarter 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so October will be beginning of quarter 4. For anyone who's, one, a consumer, or two, a real estate professional, make sure you're educating your clients that quarter 4 creates a lot of opportunities for buyers. As I'm seeing some of these days on market increasing, even though we're well below the average for the past 10 years, it's not been the average for the past 3, right? So a lot of sellers have been used the past 3 years where the average days on market was 5 days. So now that it's taking about a month on average to sell a home, some sellers are getting antsy, and it creates a lot of opportunities for buyers. So the biggest call to action is a stat that you should be well aware of if you're a real estate professional or a consumer, and that is that in quarter 4, historically, the activity for real estate goes down by 40%. So that goes for buying and selling. So over history, quarter four has always historically been 40% slower than the rest of the quarters throughout the year. And it's really because of the holidays. No one really wants to be moving during the holidays. And two, the weather. The weather affects people moving, especially like in the Midwest and Eastern states. There's a lot of snow, which people don't want to move during the snow months. So because of those reasons, that's why it slows down. But ultimately, what that creates is a lot of opportunity for buyers to come into maybe a home that they want. And the sellers have been trying to sell it for the past 2 months, because let's say they, listed it at the beginning of October. Now it's the mid-December and they still haven't sold the place. This creates a lot of opportunities for buyers to maybe make an offer that wouldn't necessarily make sense back in the summer, but because they're in the dead of winter and they need to move, then your buyer can go in and get a good deal. So just make sure you guys understand that quarter four historically activity goes down 40%. So all you real estate professionals and consumers, make sure you understand that heading into quarter four, it could really help out.
I love that. That's such a unique strategy, and it makes complete sense as well. Like you're kind of taking on the desperateness, and you're leveraging that in your own ability to get a better deal. I love that. Love that.
Yeah. And as we always say, use a professional, right? I mean, if I'm going to go buy a piece of property and I know that the seller's been sitting on it for 2 months, chances are I can negotiate extremely well on behalf of my buyer. And it's something that I do. I'll give a quick example. This has nothing to do with quarter four, but it does have to do with the fact that a seller was overpriced on a home. They were overpriced by like 40 to 50 grand on this house. And they were sitting on the market close to 90 days at this point. My buyer was interested in the property, and I told my buyer, do not pay more than 350 grand for this house. It's not worth it. This was a cash buyer, so there was going to be no appraisal done. So she was really depending on me to, advise her with the purchase. So anyway, we went back with multiple counters, and they ultimately agreed to a 350 selling price.
Wow.
So it is, a $40,000 discount just because, I was able to provide them with the proper documentation and comps of the area, as well as just my expertise of that area, that the property was not worth more than that. So make sure you guys are working with real estate professionals, any professional for that matter. Life insurance, use Drew.
Real estate
Anything that you're
Kate.
doing. Yeah, anything that you're doing, make sure you're using a professional, because they're doing this stuff every single day. So if you are a consumer buyer who wants to buy in quarter four, or you're a real estate professional helping buyers in quarter four, make sure they're well informed how historically the activity goes down 40%, and then let them know how that changes their positioning in the market so they know moving forward what you guys do. So that's just a good tidbit to use.
I love that. I love that. And what better place to meet these professionals than NGRN, this group we put on. Our next meetup is September 22nd from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Arizona Sands Club. Your boy Cade is going to be speaking. So very excited for that. But again, that's this coming up, not this Friday, but next Friday from 5:30 to 8:30. I'm very excited. You get to meet a lot of young professionals in a lot of different careers. So get to meet people like Reed Bright, who owns trash cans and dumpsters. But you may need a trash can or a dumpster. You never
Right.
know. So super cool, very excited. And then we always like to end on a positive quote. I got one pulled up, unless you got one, kid.
No, take it away.
Perfect. All right. So I think this one's super powerful. It's nothing is impossible. The word itself even says I'm possible. So whenever you're thinking about, that ability to not do something because it doesn't exist or it's not possible, just flip it and say, I'm possible. It's possible, whatever I'm thinking of. So remember those popsicle commercials? It's not popsicle, it's possible. Remember that?
I don't.
No?
But
Oh
I
man.
believe you.
Also, it was a superhero commercial with like those the rocket, the ones that were like the multi-level ones. It was like red on top, white, and then blue or
Gotcha,
green.
gotcha.
Yeah. So
That's funny.
awesome, man.
Well, I mean, it's true, dude. I mean, I when I look back, and I'm sure you can relate too, Drew, is like when you look back at just even the past 4 years of your life, right? You look at the position you're in now and you're like, man, I used to dream of this being in this position, and now you're there. And
Yeah.
it's freaking mind blowing when you just sit and try to comprehend where you used to be. Like, dude, I can literally just sit here and think about when I was used to, bussing tables in high school. And I was just like, man, what would it look like to just be doing real estate full time, living on my own, buying rental properties? And it's like, boom, here you are. You're already doing it. So yeah, absolutely. It's 100% true.
Well, and the cool thing is too, is like, you look at those pipe dreams that you used to have as a kid, like, oh, I want to do this and I want to have this amount of money in my bank account and I want to have like this many rental properties and like, yeah, we're there, we're buying them, but we also have a solidified and pretty good forecast of the future to get to those goals, right? And that's another cool thing. It's like I have a reasonable explanation and a reasonable plan to say, you know what, I'm going to be earning this amount of money at this age as long as I do this. And I have it down to the science of I just need to call this many people per day and I'll hit that. And I'm
Right.
sure you do it too. And it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool, man. Such a different place than where you used to be.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
what's that saying where it's like the people who are successful, um, or it's like successful people love the run more than the finish line or something about loving the journey more than the end result, is
Mm,
everything. And I think that's so true too. Like the day-to-day meetings, phone calls, conversations, the day-to-day grind, troubleshooting problems within your business, like all that little stuff that you got to do every single day is like you don't really realize it because you're just doing it because you have to, because that's your job. But at the end of the finish line, when you're at where you want to be, you realize, wow, it was all those little details that made up where I am now. So if you can just fall in love with just like even doing these Zoom calls, right? It's such a simple little thing. But just the fact that we're here, we're doing it. I mean, you beat 99% of the people. So
that's
so
it. I love it. I love it, man. Well, thank you again, Cade, for your time. And once again, September 22nd, 5:30 to 8:30 at the Arizona Sands. I look forward to seeing you all there.
likewise. Thanks, Drew.